Are you going to use pedals with it?
Yes, if I can. Do most people?
It depends. I mean,
I'd like them functional. If
yeah, that way if you don't want them, you can just pull them off and put them aside. But I mean, in gospel, they almost always use pedals, and in rock, and they hardly ever use pedals. In country and jazz and blues, sometimes they do and sometimes they don't.
What are you looking for now?
I'm just looking for microphonic tubes. Sometimes the connections get bad through the plugs, through the sockets. I'm just kind of checking all of that.
Is it a good idea every now and then to pull the tubes out and put them back in?
It wouldn't hurt.
Kind of cleans the pins, doesn't it?
Yeah, maybe not on a constant basis.
Right.
Maybe every 6 months or a year or so.
Yeah.
Or if you notice if it's kind of crackling or cutting in and out.
Yeah.
That's a 15-inch.
15.
Yeah, and it's a Jensen. And that's a Jensen driver in the top. It's a compression driver.
Oh.
And I'm going to be checking that as well.
What's the wattage on this amp?
This one is only rated at 40 watts. That's what they rated these tube amps at. And it was from a time, when the speakers were higher efficiency than they are now. So they were plenty loud, even at 40 watts. This one has a solid state relay installed. The original ones had a mechanical relay. This has a solid state relay, which is this device right here. And it looks like it was made by Keyboard Products. That was kind of a famous company back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s.
What does that do?
It lubricates because the tone generator on a Hammond organ is mechanical.
Oh.
And it requires lubrication. And they have a special type of oil. This design, when it dries in there, it doesn't like burn oil like a car would, but the oil gradually evaporates. That's the reason why when you open it up, it has kind of a certain kind of an oil smell.
Yeah.
Kind of a solvent, kind of an oil smell. And the Hammond oil is designed when it dries in there, it doesn't leave a residue behind. That's what's special about the Hammond oil. It had a kind of a buzzing. So what I'm doing is I'm checking to make sure all the internal parts are tight in here.
1969, so how old is it?
46 years old, 45 years old. I'm going off of the date code that's on the speaker, which that's about within 6 months or so of the actual production date. The date code on this is also a 1969. Sometimes you can't see that because it's covered up by the speaker. I can see it. It's partially covered, but I can still see it without pulling the speaker out right here.
Oh, yeah.
249 is the number of the day. There's 365 days in a year, so it's the 249th day of 1969. The last number is the year, and all you have to do is figure out which decade it is. And I know that in 1970 they started using a particle board baffle shelf here, and this one's not, so it's plywood. So it's got to be prior to 1970, and they didn't make the two-speed models in the 1950s, so it has to be the 1960s. So that's how I was able to do it. And plus there's other ways, the speaker here. The earlier decades they were not using this type of speaker, they were using something else in here. I put Hammond or Leslie oil in a syringe here, so I can reach in here and I can oil the motors without having to take everything apart. Yeah, little bit of a snag right there. See it?
Yep.
I mean, it would probably work for a while like that.
You have another bell?
Yes. Just until you really need it bad during an important session, and then it would break.
Yep.
That's what would happen.
Do those tubes on the amp need to be biased?
No. They're self-biasing. The way that the circuit configuration is they're cathode biased. The output tubes are. And I usually, when I replace them, I like to replace them as a matched pair. The original Leslie company did not match them. They just put the same type and the same age tubes in there. They got them out of the same batch, but they didn't actually match them. But I have found you get a better result if you do. So that's what I put in there.
And what are you doing there?
What I'm doing is the drawbar was dropping out as you would pull the drawbar from minimum to maximum intensity. And the way the drawbar systems on these organs work is it's a dual contact point. And the 2 points are interconnected with a tiny resistive wire. It's approximately 1 ohm. It's not a direct wire. It does have a slight resistance to it. And the wires will sometimes break because it's a super fine wire. So what I'm doing is I'm replacing that with a tiny 1/8 ohm, 1/8 watt, 1 ohm resistor, which this is fairly common.
I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give me a thumbs up so I know that it had value to you. And please, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Alternatively, if there are other topics that you wish to discuss or see discussed in a video presentation, send me an email, info@acousticfields.com, and we'll get them on our list and get them done for you. I release a new video about every week, so stay tuned to our YouTube channel and keep updated on our new videos.